From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode number 89. Today's show is brought to you by Braintree and Squarespace. My name is Myke Hurley. I had the pleasure of being joined by Mr. Federico Viticci.
Hi, Myke.
Hello, Federico. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am very well, and I am very happy. Stephen has returned to us.
I am back.
Did you find what you were looking for?
Well, it turns out I was just looking for you, Myke.
Because
so I came back.
we told all of our listeners where you were last week, hunting IMAX.
Yeah, it's not entirely true.
Well,
I am picking up the last one today, though.
Exactly. See, the hunt was on.
Nice.
Today, this afternoon, so I will have all 13. There's a photo from Instagram in the show notes of 12 of the 13 this weekend. So it's almost done, and I'll have the first video up hopefully by the next time we record the show.
Have you ever watched Dragon Ball, the anime, Steven?
I am familiar with it, yes.
You know, when they collect all of the 7 Dragon Balls, they can invoke the dragon. So you should do a similar ritual with the IMAX. Maybe you can invoke Steve Jobs.
Wow.
Well, that would be something, wouldn't it? I mean, you're looking to make a YouTube video. That would be a bit of a success.
That would definitely increase my YouTube revenue from the $17 it is right now.
You could at least make 19.
I know. Oh man,
YouTube revenue is a disaster.
Yeah. It's a dumpster fire. I have a spreadsheet of like things I spend money on and how much money I make from things, and the YouTube sheet or like tab in that Google spreadsheet is just, it's not good.
Well, I mean, it's going to be horrific now that you have a plethora of computers to deal with.
I mean, I only spent money on like half of them.
Oh, that's okay then. Did you work out what you're doing with them when this is all done?
Like when I'm done with the videos?
Yeah.
No.
I have an idea.
Okay.
You should do a scavenger hunt in Memphis. So you place each iMac in a secret location, and then you gather a bunch of connected listeners to come to Memphis and do a scavenger hunt to find all of the iMacs.
But then what? The idea is people get to keep them? Nobody wants them.
No,
Wow.
you get to keep them. It's just a funny way to engage listeners.
Very expensive.
Details.
Listeners, fly to Memphis, which is expensive to fly in and out of, and you can drive around in a city and find a 40-pound computer, and then you have to bring it back to me, and then you can leave.
There's no prize.
There's no prize.
Just a pat on the head.
I mean, I have to do something to counter y'all's rogue European Connected meetup.
Oh yeah, there's news on that front.
Okay.
The event is bigger now. I sent out this morning about another 80 tickets to the waiting list.
Yeah.
We have increased the size of the venue. We cannot make it any bigger than this, so don't sign up anymore. If you haven't got an email from us saying you have a ticket, you probably won't get one. But that's all going ahead and it's going crazy. I will mention this later on, but if you're coming to the event, please buy a few drinks because otherwise we will be given a big bill at the end. So please bear that in mind.
Please also drink responsibly.
Drink responsibly, but
buy a lot of them.
you can give them away if you want. But yeah, just remember those two things: buy lots of drinks and drink responsibly.
Yeah,
that is what we're
the
all
two
about.
things are not mutually exclusive. You know.
Exactly. This event, I'm very excited about it, but I'm probably a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of people that are coming.
Yeah, it's a lot of people, Myke.
Well, we have issued 150 tickets to this event.
What are we going to do?
That's bigger than the WBC event.
I know. Well, we have a bigger venue. It's cheaper in London. I don't really know what we're going to do. I guess hug people or something?
I mean, there's going to be 150 people and the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
What if they put us in the middle and they decide to do nasty things to us? I mean,
I'm trying not to worry about that.
Is it called the drawing room for some reason? Like, do
Yep.
people have to bring Apple pencils and iPads and do sketches?
No, a drawing room is like a fancy room with nice chairs and books and stuff. And we have a private bar and a roof terrace.
But it's going to be fun.
It is.
And there's going to be a lot of people.
If you sign up for the waiting list, please check your email. We're very excited to see everybody there on the 10th of June. Stephen, follow up.
Yes, it is time to do some follow-up. And we're going to start with a tweet put forth by listener Robert. And Robert asked, is the Apple Watch becoming like the iPod? iPod was a multi-platform gateway for PC users entering the Apple ecosystem. And then he follows his tweet saying Apple Watch for Android. So I think I want to divide this into two sections of comments. What Robert is talking about is the iPod halo effect. This idea that the iPod was so great. And you think about in the heyday of the iPod, like 2003, 2004, 2005, in the pre-iPhone era. The iPod was so great, and when they released it for Windows and had iTunes for Windows, the Steve Jobs quote is like handing someone in hell a glass of ice water. Unfortunately, that ice water was laced with iTunes, so not so great. But the idea that this iPod is so great, the Mac must be great. And the Mac really benefited, and Apple really benefited from this effect. The iPod would bring people into the ecosystem, and then the next time they needed a computer, they'd buy a Mac. That is definitely a thing that happened with the iPod. I am not sure. In fact, I'm pretty sure that it can't happen with the watch for a couple of reasons. One, the watch is not nearly as good as the iPod was in its heyday.
At what it's supposed to do.
At what it's supposed to do. Like, the hardware is great, except for the weird button I don't know what to do with, but it's not this like runaway product the iPod was currently. At least in the same sense that the iPod was, where you could have the iPod operating as a solo Apple device in a completely PC environment, because the watch is married to the iPhone. Of course, then he asked, well, is Apple Watch going to come for Android? I don't see that happening. I think that Apple thinks the watch is really precious, and that letting someone with a Android phone use it seems like something they're not willing to do. And I could be wrong, but it just doesn't strike me as something that the company is going to do.
I think as well, something worth remembering is like Apple put the iPod on Windows, it gave it Windows support, because Apple were in a very different scenario to how they are now, and they kind of needed it, right? They needed to if they wanted to sell more iPods, they had to have Windows support so they could get to Windows users.
Right.
There are lots of iPhones in the world. Apple would be very happy if they even sold an Apple Watch to 10% of those people. They don't need to start putting it on Android. They already have a big enough customer base to sell it to.
That's an excellent point. The halo effect isn't really something that they're looking for right now.
No. And there can't be a halo effect, as you said, when somebody who buys an Apple Watch is already in the ecosystem. It doesn't. They've already have an iPhone. It doesn't really work out that way.
There's also two fundamental differences from the past. The first one is that I wonder how many premium Android phone owners haven't already moved to an iPhone. Apple likes to argue that they've captured a lot of the premium Android market with Android switchers who have moved from Samsung or, a premium high-end HTC to an iPhone. But the second point is the Apple Watch, unlike the iPod, it's really dependent on features that are just for the iPhone. So you could buy an iPod and you could connect it to iTunes on Windows, and it would be mostly the same iTunes. You can sync songs, you can manage playlists, and it's really the same program on Windows as it is on the Mac. But with the Apple Watch, a lot of the iPhone features, such as HealthKit or Touch ID or many other system integrations, are not available on Android. So it would be a subpar experience. It wouldn't be the real Apple Watch experience that you get with an Apple Watch and an iPhone, with an Apple Watch and an Android phone.
Plus, there are also a selection of really good Android Wear watches available for Android users. Like, I don't really see why an Android phone user would be like, the Apple Watch looks so good, I'm going to switch to the iPhone. Like, they would just buy an Android Wear watch, of which there are many really great ones, really, really good-looking devices that have good functionality.
Yeah.
So it's a good point. It's a good kind of thought experiment. But I just think that fundamentally the situation is very, very different now to what it was in like 2004.
Yeah, it's interesting too, comparing the size of the Apple Watch market to the iPod market, and Apple hid the Apple Watch in the sort of other category, so they haven't really said specifically how many units they've sold, how much money they've made. But there was a link on Daring Fireball just the other day talking about this, and there's a bit from Gruber. The iPod never generated more than $4 billion in revenue in a quarter, including holiday. quarters, and that the iPad generated more revenue for Apple last quarter than the iPod ever did, even in its heyday. So it's not comparing iPod to Apple Watch, but iPod to iPad, kind of, putting things in perspective a little bit, that while the iPod was huge in the early 2000s, in today's scale of Apple, the company has grown so much. The iPod, relatively speaking, wouldn't it be that big today? And so this idea too that the watch could generate this sort of revenue or the sort of impact for Apple really should be taken with a grain of salt. That, we kind of, you all spoke about it last week with the quarterly results, the iPad is still falling. And even compared to the iPad where it is today, the iPod was never as big. So it's all I agree with you guys. It's an interesting thread of conversation, but it's sort of like saying that the iPod socks created a halo effect for the iPod. Like it's sort of the wrong direction.
I found some iPod socks recently.
Yeah, I got a whole pack.
Yep, that's what I found, except the green one. The green one has an iPod in it somewhere in the world.
Just gone.
I know that I have an iPod in one of those. I just don't know where that iPod is. Maybe it's in my sock drawer.
Gotcha.
Couple of weeks ago, we were fretting a little bit about smart devices and kind of the future of them, right? We were talking about issues at Nest and stuff like that. A piece of news that came out in the last week is that Nokia, for reasons unknown, has bought Withings.
Yeah.
And this is just one of those things where it's like, I'm sure that Nokia have bought them because they can't make phones anymore, so they're buying a company that does smart devices. But this is just one of those instances where, if Twitter gets bought by Facebook, it doesn't really affect me in the long run. It's like, okay, a company owns this company, they're going to do whatever they're going to do with it. But if a company buys another company whose devices I have in my home to control my light switches and to turn my alarm clock on and off, any changes that get made are going to affect me in a bigger way. And I think that this is like an unfortunate reality that we're in now, that we're allowing technology companies to embed themselves further and further into our homes.
Yeah, Nokia, I don't know what they're up to these days, but...
Well, this is what they're doing now. Like, they're just, how can we ride a wave that isn't smartphones because we're not allowed to make them?
Yeah, there's that. Your comment about, having something that's like embedded in your home or like pivotal to like your security or your family safety or something, that definitely like makes me think. I don't know if I said this, but I've got a Nest thermostat, and I've already had thoughts like, if we move at some point, like, do I put another Nest thermostat up? And like, they're part of the Alphabet family of companies, but there's been so much turmoil over there. It really makes you wonder about like something that is like actually wired into your home. Like, what happens if this company goes away? And I have a couple of Withings products. I've got the watch, which we've spoken about, and I've got the Smart Scale, which I think, Federico, you have as well.
I have the Smart Body Analyzer. It's the name. Yeah.
That thing. And both of those products are great, and their software is pretty good. And I've been, a happy customer of theirs. So I hope that that Nokia allows them just to continue doing their thing. But it'll be yet another kind of Internet of Things type company to now worry about.
Yeah, it's like there's nothing to say that Nokia isn't going to do amazing things now that they own Withings, and there's nothing to say that they're not going to keep all their apps and services running. But there's a possibility of it. Like, we actually don't know, and that's kind of the uncertainty, which isn't fantastic. Like, I've been thinking, like, I have a camera in my home now, the Canary. It could get bought by another company, and they could shut it down or whatever. Like, I could get some terms of service change, and then all of my images are uploaded somewhere. Like, it's just it's interesting now that we're actually kind of inviting these technology companies in. The things that they do and the changes that they make can have a bigger effect on us.
Mm-hmm.
I am very happy that I've been well known actually to in the past make many errors when it comes to typing things.
Mm-hmm.
So there is even a website of my autocorrect issues called mikechats.xyz, It is a Tumblr which people can submit to, which happens a lot. It is a thing that I do. Apple. There was a patent that came out. I saw this on The Verge this week. Apple has patented an idea to display to somebody the autocorrect issues. Like, so say, like, for example, you get a text message and a word doesn't seem to make any sense. It's been autocorrected. The idea from looking at this patent is that you could press a button and it would show you, the recipient of that weird message, the other things that could have been said. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So it's like a way for Apple to display to people, maybe in the Messages app and elsewhere, hopefully what you're trying to say. And I think that this is fun. I think that it's cool of Apple if they're looking to get involved in this kind of meme. And I would like to see something like this.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, from the sender point of view, in some places Apple already does show you where autocorrect applies. You know, when you get the little blue dots under a word, is that when you see the autocorrect in effect?
Yeah, that's when a word has been corrected.
Yeah. And maybe, this could be a way to bring that on the other side of a conversation and to show you an actual interface. I think it makes sense. It could be fun.
Because even if it doesn't show the correct word, at least what it does is indicates to someone that this word might be wrong.
Yeah.
And that could be very valuable.
Yeah, it shows you what the other person might mean with what they typed.
So I like the sound of this. I think it could be fun. And I think you could... This is like one of those silly little features that you could package up in quite a nice way, right? It could be like a funny little thing that you could demo, and it might make just a little change for people. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it could go together with some improvements to the system keyboard as well. So I think it makes sense.
I really, really wish for that. I know we haven't spoken about that much recently, and I'm sure we will soon, but for there to be a change to the system keyboard handling,
yeah,
I would love that greatly. We'll see. Last thing I just wanted to mention, I have I bought another Apple Pencil for my second iPad Pro, and I bought another sticker for it. So if you remember, I had a pencil sticker, like make it look a pencil.
Yeah.
Somebody sent me a link to a website called slickwraps.com. I bought my previous pencil sticker from dbrand. Slick Wraps have lots and lots of options for pencil stickers. I bought one which is a green Crayola crayon.
Ooh, nice.
And
okay.
I've applied it, and it's awesome. I don't, this is obviously very not correct, if that makes sense, right? Like, they have not asked Crayola, I'm sure, to use their branding. But I think it's fantastic. And so now I have a yellow HP pencil and a green Crayola crayon.
So I wanted to ask you, Myke, how's the people reaction to your dual iPad setup going? Are we looking for a future The People versus Myke Hurley series, or are people just accepting your setup at this point?
I've got to say, Federico, overall, I'm getting a lot more positive, I have done this is awesome, than I am, you are crazy.
Interesting.
People seem to be more weirdly accepting of this than they were of the 6 Plus, which doesn't really make sense to me. But I'm very happy that people are getting it, and I'm getting a lot of people just say to me that they have gone for an iPad Pro and they are very happy with it. And I'm getting a lot of people send me pictures on Twitter and stuff of multiple iPads in use. So I'm very happy that people are getting on board with the multiple iPad lifestyle.
Everything went better than expected. So
yep, it's my favorite kind of thing. All right, this week's episode is brought to you by Braintree, code for easy mobile payments. Maybe you're working on the next Uber, Airbnb, or GitHub. Well, why not use the same simple payment solution that helped these companies become what they are today? Braintree makes mobile payments so fast, easy, and seamless, it's almost like magic. You can add it to your app with just a few lines of code, and you're instantly ready to accept Apple Pay, Android Pay, PayPal, Venmo, credit cards, and even Bitcoin. And if some other new fancy way to pay comes along, you can bet your bottom dollar that Braintree will support that too. Braintree's fast payouts and continuous support means that you'll always be ready, whether you're earning your first dollar or your billionth. See fewer abandoned carts and more sales with Braintree's best-in-class mobile checkout experience. To check it out for yourself, visit BraintreePayments.com/connected. Thank you so much to Braintree for their support of this show and Relay FM. All right, so Federico, something has happened with Apple Music that I don't fully understand. It seems like it would be a good thing, but it's kind of confusing. There's a new API.
So with iOS 9.3, Apple introduced a bunch of new Apple Music APIs. But only last week, I think, they kind of promoted the API through the iTunes affiliate newsletter. And they also included more links to documentation and best practices for developers. So yes, there's some new stuff in iOS 9.3. What you might come across, as a user is a new permission screen under privacy, I think media or media library. It's a permission setting to grant apps access to your Apple Music library. And what this does is, first, apps can look into your Apple Music subscription, see if you're a member, and see which country you're based in. And they can also look up playlists in your account. They can add songs to a playlist. So as a user, you can already see these in action. For example, I think in Shazam, and I don't know if SoundHound already has this integration. But basically, now when you recognize a song with Shazam, you can then go into the song details and you can add the song to a playlist. So Shazam has been doing this for Spotify for years now, and now it's also possible for Apple Music. There are some limitations to this. You cannot, as a developer, build a full-on replacement for the Apple Music app. Just because these APIs are kind of limited. You can look up a song's information just by product ID. So you cannot, build a full music app replacement on iOS. You can access playlists, you can access user information, you can see if you're a member. And there's going to be some interesting utilities for Apple Music coming out. I'm testing a bunch right now. But it's still not possible to say, I want to allow users to search the entire Apple Music, or I want to allow users to see the For You recommendations in a third-party client. That's still not possible. If you look at something like Sonos, Sonos lets you see the top charts, lets you search, lets you view For You recommendations, custom playlists from the Apple Music staff. That's still not possible with the API. Sonos did a close partnership with Apple, so that's still not available to developers. But it's the beginning of something, hopefully. And of course, this is only on iOS.
Yeah. Would it be possible for somebody to develop with this API like a new music discovery app? Like, so they look at the music that you have and suggest new things for you to add?
Well, developers have been able to look into the full user library for a long time. And kind of curiously enough, that's still not protected by the new permission toggle. So the new permission toggle is only in place to let developers manage playlists, essentially.
Right.
There's a bunch of apps, for example, the new Song Shift, that can look into your music library and export it back to Spotify. That media library access, that's still not protected by the privacy screen.
So the privacy screen is protecting write access, not read access.
Exactly.
Okay,
and
that's weird.
It allows apps to put media into playlists, that kind of stuff. I think what we're looking for is the beginning of a more solid API to allow new music experiences, but I don't think Apple wants to enable developers to build a full replacement. So to take, for example, the For You recommendations and to put them in a separate third-party client. I don't feel, that's totally my speculation, but I don't feel like that's what Apple wants. They're just bringing more features to kind of allow developers of music utilities, such as Shazam or, exporting utilities to do more, but not to build a full replacement.
Are you happy with this API?
Yeah, I'm doing a bunch of cool things with the new Apple Music API, and if only the fact that apps like SongShift can now export back and forth playlists from Spotify to Apple Music and vice versa. That's cool, that's useful, and it works, well. So I think I'm happy. Yeah, they could do more, but you know, that's a good place to start.
Maybe this is just the beginning of it, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, it would be awesome to see the full access that they gave Sonos, but that's a partnership because of the speakers and all of that stuff. So for now, I think it's mostly okay. I would like to see a privacy toggle for read access. That's what I would like to see, because it's kind of weird that you can that any app can look into your song information. And there's a privacy screen, but that's only for write access, not for read access. Doesn't really make sense. So maybe there's going to be a toggle in there for reading the library as well.
Seems like a mistake.
Seems like an oversight. They will fix it. Yeah.
Something else that happened last week that we didn't cover, but we kind of ran over time with talking about the Apple results, was Logitech announced what they're calling the iPad Pro Smart Connector Charging Dock. Nice snappy name there from Logitech. This is the first non-keyboard accessory that uses the Smart Connector. Yes. That's why this is interesting, because we were talking about it. I've heard other people talk about it. Like, it was kind of weird that it's been so long and it was just basically two keyboards that accessed it and nothing else, when it is an open port through the MFI program like Lightning is. But here is something. I haven't tried it out yet. I think this looks really nice, but I'm kind of not interested in this device for my own personal uses. One of the main reasons for that is to charge this device, you have to take off the keyboard cover, which is just frustrating to me. Yep. Like, where am I putting the keyboard cover then? Like, there isn't a place for me to put it. Like, if there was some kind of way that I could just put the keyboard cover in the back of the stand, like if it had a little slot for that or something, that'd be great, but it doesn't. Why would they do that? But it doesn't have it. And also, something I find kind of weird about this product is the amount of time that it takes to charge. So this is a big caveat of, if no apps are in use, it will take around 7 hours to charge the iPad Pro, which I'm not too keen on that.
Once you try the 29-watt adapter, 7 hours to charge, it's really quite the downgrade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my guess is that is not a Logitech specific issue.
But it's just how much power can be drawn through that connector.
Right, that smart connector can't handle the sort of power that you get through the Lightning port. But I mean, if it charged faster, I guess it would be more attractive. But if you wanted to use an iPad Pro that was basically stationary all the time, then just that little bit of trickle power would be fine. But
I mean, basically, this is a dock for people that want to use a keyboard. Right, like that would be the really cool kind of use of this, right? You would put the thing there and you would just type away, and like that's where you put your iPad on your desk, and that's just a stand for it every day. Puts it in landscape mode, which I think makes a lot of sense for that, right? Like, so you're sitting and writing. It's a really good product for that use. But whilst I would love to have something where I could just put my iPad on my desk, I would actually quite like that a lot. I don't want to be taking the keyboard on and off, so I'm just going to use the keyboard cover as the stand for it, right? Like, that's just kind of where I am with that.
I would guess, though, kind of the idea of using it like as a stand, like, I wonder how easy it would be to get in a situation where the charger can't keep up with your usage. Like, if you're streaming Netflix on this thing, are you going to run your battery down even though it has power applied to it, or is it going to kind of come out in the wash and basically, keep the current level? So
I feel like it would give you more time, but it wouldn't keep the battery up.
I mean, maybe. I mean, it's not a lot. It's not a lot of power moving through that thing. And like I said, I assume this is a smart connector limitation. I think it's something that could be interesting to see Apple update this over time. That what if the smart connector could take in the same sort of charge as say that 29-watt adapter can give out.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good overall that people are doing more things with a smart connector. It's still only Logitech. They make that keyboard clip-in case business, but I hope that other companies now, especially now that the 9.7-inch Pro is out, the more companies start using this smart connector in more interesting ways. Like I could see a world where, especially if they resolve this power issue, like I could just sit my iPad down in a bunch of different scenarios and it gain new capability. Like what if you could sit it down and have a keyboard in front of it, like a musical keyboard, or sit it down in front of like there's a company that makes a iPad compatible like little mixer, and it comes with an app and you have a lot of controls on the iPad, then you have some physical controls on the mixer itself. Like all that sort of stuff would be possible through the smart connector if it becomes more like widely adopted. And I guess that's just going to take time, right? Because there's still only 2 iPads out of the 17 SKUs or whatever there are that have it. But it's a step in the right direction, I guess.
What I've been thinking about, and actually I want to ask you too for advice here. I struggle to use iPad keyboards because I have big hands and a lot of the keyboards are small, and so they're not really comfortable for me to type on. So I've been thinking, maybe I should give the Apple Magic Keyboard a try and see how it works. I know that it's not a smart connector keyboard, it's a Bluetooth keyboard, but maybe, a lot of people like it, and maybe it's big enough for me to type on, long pieces and reviews. And maybe that keyboard combined with the Logitech stand, if I'm sitting for 3 hours in a writing session and I need to get an article done, maybe that kind of setup would be more comfortable, like from a physical point of view for my hands for typing. So do you guys use a Magic Keyboard with an iPad? Have you tried one?
I have. So I have the smart keyboard on my iPad, and I'm using that more and more just for the convenience that it's always there. But the Magic Keyboard is my daily driver at my desk on the Mac, and my desk here at the office, I've got one as well. And so even now, as I've gotten more used to the smart keyboard, if I really have something long I want to write, it is tempting to put the iPad in a stand and use the Magic Keyboard. And yeah, there's like, sometimes you get some weirdness with like the Bluetooth connecting or whatever, but it has gotten much better over the years than it was in the early days. And with the smart keyboard being really easy to turn on and off, or the Magic Keyboard, excuse me, it's got a little power switch just around the end. It's very easy to make sure it's off, unlike the old Bluetooth keyboards. It's really like not too bad to throw in a bag or something and know that it's not going to wake your iPad up.
I'm thinking about it. I
think it would be a lot better for you ergonomically as well if you're sitting down for that amount of time to be having the iPad in a stand, which you could maybe put on top of some books or something to bring it to eye level, and then use a keyboard in front of you, as opposed to what I assume you're probably doing now, which is kind of leaning over the iPad and typing on the glass. Or I think if you're going to be sitting down for long periods of time, to write a 17,000 word review or something. You should probably be thinking about how you do this as if it were a desktop computer, so you can make the space a bit more ergonomically friendly for you. So I actually think, Federico, that without a single doubt, you should do this.
I'm primarily thinking about this summer when I'm going to write the iOS 10 review, because last year when I did the iOS 9 one, I ended up with a lot of issues with my wrists, and I needed to do some physical therapy to kind of fix those problems. So I'm thinking maybe this summer I should have a more ergonomically friendly setup.
Right, without a single doubt, you have to do this. If you were getting pains, you must do this. You have to change before you lose the ability to make money. Right, you have to do this.
Yeah, plus, I cannot really dictate a review like John did. So.
No. You don't want to get in that situation that unfortunately John is in, right, where he has to do that. So make some changes now. Your body is telling you to do it. Buy one of these, buy a keyboard. I would suggest, personally, this is my own suggestion, looking at a more ergonomically friendly keyboard. The Magic Keyboard hurts me. I use a Microsoft Sculpt keyboard. I don't know if something like that would even work with iOS, but just take a look at some other options and see if there's anything that's good for you.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you.
Just in case, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Stephen, you have an interesting topic this week.
Yeah, so I thought we could maybe talk about some of the apps that we use while we're not working. We spent a lot of time over the last 6 months or so discussing our various ways that we work, mostly on iOS with the two of you. But, we do use our devices for things outside of work. Although I think we all had a realization about that we can get to. But I think it would be fun to talk about some of the things that we use sort of in our personal lives on our devices. And we just have a list. I don't know, do we just want to go through it like one at a time? We kind of walk through it. There's a lot of overlap in here, I think.
Or we could do our favorite round robin.
We could do round robin.
Yes, round
Let's
robin.
just go round robin.
Okay.
All right. Woo! You're the only one who knows how it works, so tell us what to do.
Just one at a time. It's not difficult.
So confusing.
It's not difficult.
All right, so I will start with day one, which, if you're not familiar with, is a journaling app for the Mac and iOS. You can upload photos, write text, put GPS locations in. And I used it a lot in the last week. We were traveling through the Northeast, and I did some of it while I was gone. But when I got home, I went through the, 600 photos we had from the trip. And I put some of my favorites into day one entries, and it said, hey, do you want to use the time and geolocation of the photo? And so if I look at my day one, I can see our trip all lined out, even though I put all the journal entries in one day. And it's just a really nice way to have stuff for me to look at later. I really enjoy opening the app, especially on the iPad. It's really great. And kind of flicking through, I've got, I don't know, I can open it. I don't know how many years of journaling I have now in day one. And it's, like I said, it's not all necessarily about like super in-depth, like journaling the way you think it is, but a lot of times it's just a little photo and a little caption. So I've got stuff dating way back to 2010 in here, and it's got tags and search and a whole bunch of stuff. Like it's all the good things about journaling in a notebook, but with all the the pluses being able to do it with technology to have photos, and the new versions even let you this is the music I was listening to when I wrote this, or this was the number of steps I had that day. So it's fun. It brings a lot of stuff in from your device, and it's definitely something that I use on a regular basis. It's been on my home screen for a long time.
Yeah, day one's a good choice. I don't use it as often as you. I think I mentioned before, I put in big things that I'm proud of going to day one. So, like personal and professional achievements I put in there. I don't put a lot more in than that, but it's nice for that I have this little record of those types of things.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's my turn now?
It is your turn now, Federico. Round robin.
Okay. So it's actually, I'm kind of cheating here, but it's two picks, and it's Spotify and Apple Music together. So before I get all the comments that I'm using I'm using two streaming services, and I'll tell you why. So a few months ago, I think in January, I chose to give Spotify another try, just because this is what I always do. I check in regularly with a different service or a different app, of what I'm using right now, just to see what they're doing, what's the competition, what it looks like. And to my surprise, I found out that I really enjoy the discovery process of in Spotify. So thanks to Discover Weekly, which is the playlist that they do each Monday to show you songs you haven't listened to, and thanks to Fresh Finds, which is a series of playlists that they publish each Wednesday for upcoming artists and indie bands, that kind of stuff, I'm discovering a lot more new music, like artists that I've never heard of before, songs that I don't know, but that I actually enjoy a lot. And this is because Spotify, they do a lot of algorithmic kind of discovery stuff that Apple doesn't do as much. And the basic truth is that in 4 months of Spotify, I've discovered more bands and artists and songs that I did in 9 months of Apple Music. But the two of them, Spotify and Apple Music, for me are complementary to each other, because I still like Apple Music for a bunch of reasons. First is the exclusives. So, a lot of the artists that I like have deals with Apple. So Drake, Beyonce on iTunes, which is not really Apple Music, but you get the idea. What's the other exclusive? I think the 1975s a while ago did an album on Apple Music. So there's quite a few of the bands that I like, a few of the artists that I like do exclusives on Apple Music now. And I want to listen to those, and I don't care about using, piracy, because I don't have the patience or the time for that. I just want to pay and listen. And the second is, I do appreciate the interface of Apple Music. I like it better than Spotify. It's more colorful, it's more, I want to say young, if it makes sense. It's just, Spotify is kind of dull and dark and black and kind of boring after a while. So what I do is, I use Spotify as my daily music streaming service. I listen to Discover Weekly almost religiously every week. And I listen on Spotify, if only because the next week I'm going to get recommendations based on what I was listening to. And those recommendations are, for me, more skewed towards discovery than Apple Music. Apple Music, the intro to playlists tend to give me stuff that I already know, whereas at this point in my life, I want to discover stuff I don't know, and I feel like Spotify in that regard serves me better. But Apple Music I like for the exclusive stuff they do. I like it just to browse the front page, which is fun and full of stuff you can click on. So I'm using both, and I think Christina also uses both. She kind of turned me into this idea of using multiple streaming services. So I spend a lot of my free time after work, just like hours listening to music. And I'm using two services. It's expensive, and I don't recommend it, but it works for me.
This is why I was thinking it would be nice if there were apps that could replicate the Discover Weekly type thing, right?
Yeah.
Which could actually do more. I think we're going to cover this in detail a little bit later. We've been putting it off for a little bit, but we've got a big kind of Spotify versus Apple Music topic planned out, so I won't spoil that for now. I'll mention kind of my first pick for things that I'm using more is YouTube. I'm watching more YouTube videos, and mostly on the Apple TV. Becoming an Apple TV convert, which I did not expect. But we are using that device more and more. And it's kind of nice because it's giving us just a different place to watch things. So I do it when I eat lunch or eat breakfast. I go down to the front room and watch something there. And that's actually kind of nice. And I've been enjoying a couple of new YouTube channels. One that I really, really like is called, the channel is Wheezy Waiter. And it's just a daily vlog type channel. But I really, really enjoy it a lot. So I recommend it. Craig, who runs the channel, I really just like his style. And I don't really get a lot out of daily vlogs, but his I really enjoy. So I recommend that. So it's kind of a twofer pick. But also on iOS, the YouTube app is getting better and better. Being able to use it in split screen is awesome, and I love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, YouTube and Apple TV. And I'm watching Netflix on the Apple TV more. Another of my picks, which I'll get to in a little bit, I'm watching on Apple TV more. I use maybe 3 or 4 apps on it, but I really like it. And I'm kind of surprised at myself for that.
So I'm going to go next with GIF Wrapped for iOS, which is a kind of a 2-part app. You can sync, I keep mine on Dropbox, a folder of GIFs. And so, funny things I come across, mostly Tim Cook dancing, I can throw in that Dropbox folder and it's synced to the iPhone. So I have a quick access to the GIFs that I like on my phone. But you can also search the Giphy database from the app. So I could say, I need a GIF of a dumpster fire and type it in, and you can save it to your local library. You can copy a link or copy the image and put it in an iMessage or however else you want to send a GIF. And it's just a nice way. I know there's GIF keyboards and like Slack has Giphy integration and all that stuff, but it's nice to know exactly what you're going to send. Like doing a Giphy command in Slack can go terribly wrong, as everyone knows. So it's nice to have like your own library and searching, and it saves your search history so you can go back. And it's a really nice little iOS app that I find a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've used it a bunch in the past as well. Like when I was trying to amass a Dropbox-based GIF library, I used GIF Wrapped, but I ended up just giving up on that because the main place that I need GIFs, which is like Slack or even a service like Telegram, which I've been using more and more, I just use their integrations, and that works quite nicely for me. And then on iOS, I just wait for Steven to send me GIFs instead than me actually having to do them.
So my video pick would have been also YouTube, because like Myke, I'm using YouTube more and more. As for the vlogs, I'm watching Casey Neistat's every day.
Yeah, so Wheezy Waiter has said before that he is purposefully influenced by Casey Neistat and thinks about him. So whilst I haven't watched Casey Neistat's videos, if you do watch those, you may enjoy my selection too.
Okay, I'll check it out. There should be a link in the show notes, Myke.
Oh, of course there will be. I mean, look who you're talking to here. Of course there will be.
So instead of YouTube, which Myke did an excellent job in describing, I'm gonna mention DS Video and VLC. So DS Video is the Synology app to stream video from your NAS, and I use it because I have a lot of TV shows that I watch with my girlfriend, and I like the fact that if a TV show cannot be, what's the word here, decoded, the video file, if it cannot be streamed in the DS Video app, there's a menu to send it to other video players, and VLC and Infuse are supported, and I use VLC just out of habit, I guess. It works with every video file that I ever have, and I watch hours and hours of... You know what I actually did is I started watching The Big Bang Theory in December, and we caught up with the 9th season a few weeks ago.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
That's
but the problem is, the problem is, I love The Big Bang Theory so much that as soon as we wrapped up with the current episode of the current season, I started watching it again from the first episode. It's just it's almost like listening to music. Before bed, after I finished work, after I listen to music, I love to watch a couple of episodes of The Big Bang Theory. Even if I already know the story, even if I already know what happens, it just relaxes me.
Yeah, I'm like that with shows like Community, right? It's just easy to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to. It's like comfort food for TV shows, comfort TV shows. It's just always there, and it puts me in a good mood before sleeping. So I'm a big fan of the Synology that I bought. I have a DS 214 Play, I think it's the name, and it works well with the VLC on iOS. So yeah, I use it a lot.
My next one is going to be ViscoCam, which I'm sure a lot of listeners are aware of. It is a photo, a camera replacement, and it's got a lot of photo editing. And I use a lot of camera apps. I've rotated a lot, have a lot on my phone. Obscura is another great one. But I like Visco a lot because it has a really rich library of filters. And unlike something like Instagram, which has sort of heavy-handed filters, a lot of the Visco ones are very subtle, and you can really go in and tweak them and play with them. And what's really great is that it has its own sort of sync engine, so you can save photos to your library within the app, and they sync around your apps. And so I've gotten in the habit of, if I'm shooting some with my iPhone in Visco, I'll go to pick up my iPad later and edit them there, because obviously it's a much larger canvas to work on. Hey, that's the name of Federico's show. And it's just a nice set of tools, and they have, like I said, a lot of filters, a lot of really fine-grained control. You can export to just about anything, and unlike some iOS photo apps, it will let you export full size. And this has gotten better over the years. I tried in 2011, I think, to I did a big roundup of trying to manage taking a photo a day art project just on iOS, and the limitation I ran into then was almost every photo app only allowed you to export a downsized image, and that has thankfully changed as iOS devices have gotten more powerful. And if you're into iPhone photography and you haven't checked this out, then shame on you, because it really is a really powerful, flexible set of tools.
I broke the round robin.
You did, Myke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was meant to go next. So I'm going to go. I'm going to take two now. So I'm going to go now, and then I'll go again after Federico. Round robins, man. How do they work? Nobody knows. So
Yeah.
I was talking about video. I've made it more public recently that I am a fan of professional wrestling. And the WWE have their own subscription streaming service called the WWE Network, and it's awesome. It's so good. If you are a fan, it's fantastic. They have so much stuff there, and they're creating a lot of original programming. Is Seth? Who is the guy who is involved in Family Guy? Is it Seth Green?
No, it's Seth MacFarlane.
No, Seth Green is a voice. He is Chris.
Okay.
So Seth Green has just created an adult cartoon show called Camp WWE, which is hilarious.
Oh, Seth Green is the guy from Entourage.
Is he in
I think he
Entourage?
was. Yeah, he was. I think he
Okay.
was.
Well, so he's just created a show for them. They have a bunch of great content. The app is pretty good on most devices, but it's just a good example of a streaming service that's focused around one thing, and I really like it. So there you go. There's another pick. It's very specialized, but if you like what I like and you don't already have this, then you're crazy.
So can I ask you, help me understand here.
Mm-hmm.
Professional wrestling is all acted, right?
Oh God, we're gonna go into this right now.
I honestly don't know.
All
like,
right, so-
is it real fighting or is it just like a story?
Okay, so there are stories like that I enjoy, like soap opera stories, right? Like people don't actually hate each other, but they like pretend to, and things happen. They're called storylines. Things happen that are acted, right?
Okay.
But the action in the ring, of course, they know what's going on. They're looking to help each other, protect each other, and not hurt each other. But it's real things happening, right? Very frequently, someone's going to get punched in the face, and like that's just the way that they decide to do it. Or someone jumps from 30 feet down from a cell onto a table. Like stuff happens. It's not real fighting, but it's real athleticism. Is that fair?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, because the muscles are clearly real. I just wonder, like, is a fight is the outcome decided beforehand?
Yeah.
Okay. So they just do the stuff in the ring to reach that outcome. But
Yeah.
all the moves and the jumping and the punches are real.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, they do things to protect each other, right? So they're not actually physically trying to hurt each other, but the moves and the things that you're seeing are real things. And, you know, there's a lot of nuance in this, but that's effectively the idea of it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I would recommend, if anybody is even slightly interested in why I enjoy professional wrestling, I did an episode of Analog with Casey last year talking about this, and I went into a lot more detail, obviously, than I have so far. I will put that in the show notes. I would recommend people go and check it out if they're at all interested. So there you go. Analog episode number 71. Federico, you're up.
So my next pick would be, obviously, and this is kind of, I mean, of course I'm going to mention this, it's Overcast. I listen to not a lot of podcasts. I'm not the type of guy that listens to like 30 podcasts, but I do have my rotation of 4 or 5 shows. Lately, I've been binging on Cortex and Hello Internet just because I'm on a CGP Grey fever. And Overcast is, yeah, you can tell him.
You probably hear it. He listens to this show.
All right. I do like Overcast because of 2 reasons. The dark theme, it looks great. And it was kind of an inspiration to do our own dark theme on Mac Stories. I think Marco did an excellent job with the balance of colors. I'm not usually the type of user who switches to dark themes, but in Overcast I'm using it and I love it. And the second one, of course, it's Smart Speed. Lets me save time by cutting silence from episodes. And Overcast is just... So it's one of those apps that I immediately go to download, like 1Password or Dropbox. And it's one of those apps that I cannot imagine using their official Apple-made version instead. It's a third-party app that does a bunch of things, has a great design. Now it's even getting faster at syncing because of a change that Marco did called Quick Sync. So now it works even better across the iPad and the iPhone to sync progress. So yeah, it's one of the very first apps that I put on my devices. Listen to all my podcasts there, and I love it. Yeah, I'm an Overcast supporter in the setting with the little membership
Patron.
thing. Yes, Patron. And I love Overcast, and I love listening to podcasts with Overcast. So yeah, that's my pick.
I think we're all the same on that one, right? Like we all have
Yes.
that pick.
Yep. Agreed.
It's my favorite podcast app for iOS. I just think Marco does a great job, and there are things that he does which makes me never want to leave, right? Which is like the smart speed stuff and voice boost and all the things that he thinks about. Even like one of my favorite newer features is the fact that he kind of tweaks the equalizer when you're listening on the phone speaker. I think that's awesome. I will pick my favorite game of all time on iOS, which is Threes. I have recently started playing Threes again a lot. I adore that game. I think it's kind of the perfect phone game. It's just a little puzzle game, and it's super, super easy to use on iOS. Like, it's just a great one-handed game. You can play it forever. It kind of, for me anyway, never gets boring because it's so simple, and it's kind of thrilling as well. Like, if you're getting a really high score, it's kind of exciting to see what's going to happen next. I always get this question when I mention Threes. My high score is 63,657. It's not a great high score, but it's my high score, and I'm proud of it. I love Threes. If you've never played Threes, first, what is wrong with you? Two, correct that.
I agree.
All right, let's take a break, and then we can continue with the rest of our list. I want to take a moment to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this week's episode. Squarespace is the simplest way for anyone to create a beautiful landing page, website, or online store. You can start building your own site today at squarespace.com. Use the offer code WORLD, WORLD, at checkout to get 10% off your first purchase. With easy-to-use tools and templates, Squarespace helps you capture every detail of what drives you, because if it's worth the effort, it's worth sharing with the world. And when we talk about sharing, then make it super easy to do that. Squarespace has fantastic tools, state-of-the-art tools, that let you very easily customize your site. You start with these beautiful templates that are professionally designed, and you don't need to know any coding or anything like that to put something together. Everything's drag and drop. You can see all in the web browser how something's going to look. It shows you live previews of all the changes that you're making. It really is super fantastic, and all of the changes are going to look great on all devices because responsive design is built right into Squarespace, and they have something that I really like. When you're making changes to your site in like a web browser on a desktop, you can click a little button to see how these changes will also look on the iPhone, so you'll know before you push them live how it's going to look on all manner of screen sizes. So it has phone sizes, tablet sizes, and desktop sizes, which I really love. They have a commerce platform, so you can sell physical and digital goods. They have 24/7 support with live chat and email, rock solid fast hosting, and so much more. Their plans start at just $8 a month, and you will get a free domain name if you sign up for a year. You can start a trial today with no credit card required. It's absolutely free to try out and start building your own website today. Just go to squarespace.com and use the offer code WORLD at checkout when you decide to sign up. This will get you 10% off your first purchase and show your support for Connected. Thank you to Squarespace for their continued support of this show and Relay FM. Mr. Hackett, you're up.
Yes. So in the theme of iOS photography, which I realized is the theme just now, I'm going to pick an app for OS 10 called, I'm going to give this a shot, and you guys jump in if I butcher it, Huda Geo?
Huda
Geo. It is a Mac app that allows you to geotag photos taken without GPS information. So on this trip, I had my iPhone, of course, and then I had my Canon DSLR with a bunch of lenses. And my Canon does not have a GPS module, and so those photos are not geotagged. What this app lets you do is you can load the photos in the app, and you can do a couple of different things. You can tell the app to use another photo's GPS information. You can say, these are all the pictures of my Canon. This is a picture with my iPhone I took at the same location. Just copy its GPS coordinates. Or you can search. It has map information built into the app, so you can search, hey, I was at this state park, or I was at this building, or whatever, and it will add that data to your EXIF data for the photo. And the reason I like doing this is, even though I don't currently use Photos.app for reasons we've spoken about, I do want my pictures to have geolocation data for things like day one, or if I end up going back to photos in a moment of weakness I just like to have that information be complete. And it's a really nice way of doing it. There are several apps on the Mac that do this sort of thing, but by far this is the one that not only works the best, but actually looks like a human being designed it and can understand it. A lot of these apps are really not well put together. I can do a bunch more stuff too. You can do time shifting. So if you've traveled and never set your camera in the wrong time zone, you can correct that. You can do lots of stuff. But it's a great app. It's a little pricey. I mean, it's a professional tool. But I think it's like $40 or something. But it's definitely, if you need this, definitely the app that I have found to be the most helpful.
2 questions. One, does it let you remove information from geotagged photos?
That is a good question. I think it can. If not, there is another app called. I'm just searching in my applications folder.
It's in there somewhere.
Yeah, I got a bunch of stuff in here. There are other apps though that allow you to do that though, because I sometimes have that issue where I take a picture with my iPhone and I want to post it to the website, but I don't want my home address in that photo. I think this app probably does that, but I can't tell you for sure at the moment.
The other thing, I guess, a good workflow, a good life hack, if you will, would be when you're taking photos on your Canon, just to take one photo with your iPhone at the same place.
Yes.
Right? And it just does that.
I've done that for years. Even before when I started adding the data myself, just to have it around. So yeah, that's a good trick.
All right, Federico.
So my next pick is, again, a combination of 2 apps that I've been using again lately, and it's Moves and Gyroscope. So Gyroscope is actually a service that has an app in beta right now on iOS. And Moves is the location tracking app that Facebook acquired a couple of years ago. And to my surprise, it's still around, and it's still getting bug fixes and a bunch of features for the latest versions of iOS. And it doesn't drain as much battery as I remembered. So I like to... So this kind of originated from my effort of trying to find a purpose for my Apple Watch. And I was thinking about, is it possible that a lot of my friends are enjoying their Apple Watches and I'm not? So is it something that I could use the Apple Watch to see if it works for me? And I thought maybe I should try to find a way to build a log of my life in an automated fashion with a nice interface, because I think one of my big problems is that I don't like the dashboard of the Apple Health app to browse data, to view trends.
Agreed.
I just don't like the interface. So I was wondering, could there be maybe a solution to have this data and make it look pretty so that I'm happy and I keep wearing my Apple Watch? So I'm friends with Anand, I think Sharma is the name. He's the guy who runs, he's April Zero on Twitter, and he runs Gyroscope, which is this crazy good-looking service that builds a dashboard for your life. It connects to a bunch of services like, what's the name of the Strava, the running app, and it connects to rescue time if you use a computer. So it builds this picture of your life from a fitness perspective, from a productivity perspective. It connects to Twitter, so you can import your images. It connects to Foursquare, so you can view your check-ins, and it also connects to Moves, so you can see all of your locations over time. So I put Moves on my iPhone. I started wearing the Apple Watch again to have a log of my heart rate every 10 minutes. And now I'm using the beta Gyroscope app for the iPhone, which I guess I cannot say too many details about, but as you would imagine from Gyroscope, it looks amazing.
Oh my God, I've never heard of this. This is so beautiful.
Gyroscope is beautiful. Gyroscope is beautiful, and it's they have a fair business model. There's a subscription. It connects to a lot of services. It's fast. I think the iPhone app is in beta, so there's like a waiting list, but it looks amazing. It's seriously the best interface for heart rate and fitness data that I've seen on the iPhone. So I'm using these two, and I'm kind of my physical therapist advised me to kind of change my exercise routine, to do a bunch of things differently. So now that I've made these changes in my life and I'm using these two apps, it's fun to, at the end of each day to kind of open Gyroscope, see what I've been, confirm the data from moves, which, fun fact, changed from Foursquare location data to Facebook location data, of course. And it's kind of less accurate than before, but it's getting better. So yeah, moves and Gyroscope, it's a fun combo, and I like it. And Gyroscope is seriously amazing. I mean, if only the interface, it's fantastic.
Have you guys heard of a photo sharing service called Instagram?
Kinda. Is it the one with
right?
Is it the one with the skeuomorphistic icon? Skeuomorphistic doesn't even exist as an adjective.
It's the one that has never updated from iOS 6. That one.
Yeah, that one.
I love Instagram. It's not my most used social network, but it's one that I have the least hate towards of all the social networks that I use. It's very simple. Things are presented in a very nice way. Their ads are a little bit shady at times in the UK. There's maybe a little bit more debt consolidation ads than I would like. But I really like Instagram because there's only, for me anyway, there's just nice things in there. There aren't people complaining about things. There aren't sad things. It tends to just be nice, simple things about people's lives. And being a pen person like I am, I follow, like, lots of my pen friends post great pictures of their pens and the way that they write and beautiful calligraphy and lettering stuff. And there's a bunch of Lego stuff in there. Like, I follow very different things than I do on Twitter and in Instagram. And it makes me happy. And I like it for that. And I think it's nice to have a social network that I can go to and not have to dread some of the things I might find in there. Nobody talks about Donald Trump in my Instagram feed, right?
There's no drama in the pen community.
There is, but not on Instagram. It happens
There's drama?
in forums. Oh, yeah. Look, there's drama in every kind of community. We have rumors,
About pens?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, yeah.
So, it's like every community. But yeah, I like it.
Is there 9 to 5 pens?
There should be.
Myke.
Set it up, right? Off I go. There's some pivoting. But yeah, Instagram, look, it's whatever. But mainly my tip is try and have at least one social network that you can go to that isn't sad.
I guess my next pick is not it's not really an app.
You cheated. You come up with this topic and then cheated.
No, it means it was my idea, so I can do whatever I want to with it. I'm going to choose as my next app that I use being a real Kindle. And
it's not, you even said app. It's not an app, is it?
It is an app, but I don't use the app. I use the device. For a couple of probably obvious reasons, that it's nice to read a book when there's not a bunch of notifications coming in. I like the e-ink experience. I like that it is really lightweight. If I just want to take it somewhere and go read, I don't have to, especially now with the 12.9-inch iPad, that's not a really comfortable reading device. And so, yeah, real e-ink Kindle is my last app pick. Sorry.
It doesn't really make sense, but okay. No, I understand, Steven. So so I'm kind of cheating too, and I want to say a game, and it's Basketball. So it's a very simple iPhone game that I downloaded a few months ago. And it's a game where you have to throw a basketball into the name of the basket. I don't even know. I don't watch sports. The hoop,
yeah.
Yes.
Or the basket. The basket also works.
Yeah, okay.
The rim.
So you have to throw a ball in there, and there's a bunch of obstacles in each level, like spikes or what's the name of the bouncy things that change your trajectory? Bouncers? I don't know. With the when you play with the flipper, there's like those
the pinball.
A bumper.
And there's bumpers, spikes, and you have to time your tapping on the screen because the hoop is moving sometimes. And there's a lot of modes. So you can play instead of the traditional basketball stage, you can have like you throw food into an actual basket, or there's like themed levels with I think Star Wars is even a level, but I play with the basic free traditional level, and I play almost every day just to relax. Like sort of like Myke plays threes.
Yeah.
I play the basic mode over and over, trying to beat my high score, which is, shame on me, but it's very low. And I think I even suck at this game, but I just keep playing it. Actually, now that I think about it, I suck at this game.
This is
I'm
like
terrible.
me with threes, right? Like of everybody that I know that plays threes, like as much as I do, I have the lowest high score, but I don't care.
No, me neither. I don't care. And every time I play, I realize that I'm terrible. I'm awful. And this game is terrible with me. But I just keep playing because it's when you tap the screen and you see the little basketball falling down, it's fun. So, yeah, it's not a very professional game review. There's a lot of modes I haven't tried. There's in-app purchases you can unlock. It's fun. It's a fun game. Don't take my advice. Go to the App Store and check it out.
My last pick is going to be an obvious one. It's Pigment, the iOS coloring app. I have been doing less of this recently, but it's still the best iOS coloring app that you can buy. Like if you're looking for this type of experience, I've tried all of the popular ones, and none of them are even close to Pigment. I've also seen that they're working on a kind of a redesign of some of their stuff, and it looks fantastic, and I'm very pleased that more work is going into this app. I thought that Pixite were going out of business. Maybe I misunderstood that Verge profile that they did, but they're clearly not. And I'm very pleased to see that they're continuing work on on Pigment, because it is a fantastic app. And I think if you are at all interested in the coloring thing, and you have an Apple Pencil as well specifically, because it works the best there, then I would recommend trying it out, because nothing else even comes close to it. And it's fun. It's fun to do. Nice and relaxing.
I do have one final pick if Steven doesn't have one anymore.
Okay.
I just have an observation, so you go ahead.
Well, please save the observation for the end.
Oh, no, I think it's a little thing we all realize at the end, so you go ahead.
Yes. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Is it Narwhal?
Yeah, Narwhal, yeah.
It's a Reddit client. And I'm what you would call a Reddit lurker, which is I don't engage with a lot of posts. I do have an account, and I think I've left like 1 or 2 comments publicly. I upvote stuff occasionally, but I just browse Reddit a lot. I'm subscribed to the Workflow Reddit, to the Spotify Reddit, which is a great place to discover playlists from other people, by the way. And I just browse the front page. I browse pictures of dogs because I love dogs. And Narwhal makes it easy. It's a good iOS citizen. It supports Safari View Controller. It's got a dark theme. It supports, sharing extensions.
Split screen
on the iPad. In fact, I do use Narwhal on the iPhone and the iPad. And it's a very, very stable, never crashes on me, fast. Looks great on the iPad Pro, looks great on the iPhone. So every day I spend like 20 minutes browsing Reddit. It's always fun to come across a Spotify playlist or a workflow comment thread that I'm interested into, or just a funny dog GIF that I then share with my girlfriend on Telegram. So yeah, Narwhal. And it's also made by a great guy, so,
I use and love Narwhal. The reason I didn't pick it is because it's a work thing for me.
Yeah.
I'm the only Reddit that I subscribe to is the CGP Grey subreddit, because that's where there's a lot of conversation about Cortex. It's like I'm not even subscribed to the front page. When I open Reddit, all I see is Grey's subreddit, because I'm not really big into Reddit, really. Like I just don't really have time for another place. But I really love it. And Adina, my partner, who was just on an episode of Analog with me, actually, which was a lot of fun. If you're at all interested in hearing me and my better half have a conversation, you should go and listen to that one. It was fun.
I listened. She has a great accent.
She does, right?
She actually almost doesn't have an accent. It's just, great English. I was surprised,
Her accent is very strong, but she's great.
Really?
Yes, it's very strong. Maybe, I don't know why you don't hear it, but it's
don't.
a strong accent, but it's a great one. I like it a lot. And her attempts at doing an English accent are hilarious to me. So you can go and listen to that. But anyway, she uses Narwhal, and she is a big Reddit person. And she was so happy when I introduced her to this app. She was using Alien Blue before, which Alien Blue is a disaster of design, or at least it was. That thing used to break my brain. Like when you'd press a button and then like 65 buttons would appear in a diagonal view. Like, what are you doing? That app, I think, is now dead, right? It's been replaced by a redesigned Reddit app.
Yes, and they gave all customers, I think, 3 months of Reddit Gold.
Yeah. Because it was a paid-for app. But
yes,
for me, Narwhal is the only place to go. I love that application.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, make your observation, which is true for all of us, I think.
Yeah, so for me, in coming up with this list was the realization that it's really hard for me to separate on my devices and even on my Mac work and personal stuff. So the apps that I mentioned, most of them are personal use, but obviously some are a mix of both. And it's the idea that, these devices, at least for me, don't have a big boundaries like they used to. When I had a job, I used the Gmail app for work email to keep it separate from everything else, and now that's not as important to me. And it sort of was part of a bigger idea that all I do is work. It's just really something that I'm thinking a lot about right now is how much time I spend working. But it's not a complaint. I love what I do. But
this is the thing, that our working is also a lot of, we're getting very deep here now, is what a lot of people do for enjoyment. So a lot of the things that line is blurred now, right? So things like Slack, things like Twitter, things like RSS readers, they used to be all of the things that we enjoyed to just do as a hobby, but now they have become pivotal parts of our work. And that's where the lines start to get blurred. But it can't be something that we complain too much about because we're in very privileged positions.
Yes.
But I completely understand what Stephen is saying, because I was looking at this device and I was like, there are so many things here that cross over into the work boundary.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm talking to Myke over Telegram about some Apple news, is that work? Or is that just hanging out with a friend and chatting about our common interests? I don't know. So,
yeah, and I agree with you, Myke. It's not. I mean, it's a super first world problem that
it is the firstest of all first world problems.
Is. But it is an interesting commentary just on self-employment in general. I know we're getting all Cortex and analogy for a second, but these devices, the idea of the conversation is going on that is the phone an extension of your brain. I truly believe that it is, because the phone doesn't see the boundaries in my life the way that I do, right? That it sees work and family and kids and house and everything else as one big collection of emails and text and images and everything else, right? There's very rarely for me at least, there are no clear boundaries between those things. And so the way that I think about them really, in a way, is completely artificial. That the technology doesn't care, right? Mail.app doesn't know which of my email accounts is work and which one's personal, which one I should care about at any given time. And I don't know, it's an interesting thought process to go through. But what I really like about especially my iPhone is that it kind of doesn't matter, because it can do all of these things really well, and I can switch context very quickly and work very fluidly no matter where I am. And you guys with the iPad, I don't look at anything that I can't do on my phone, because even now that I work at home most days, there are days like today that I'm not going to be home all day and I need to get my job done on my phone. And I'm actually in the middle of I've got a Samsung, the S7 Edge on my desk, and I'm kind of working on a review of slowly. And that's always a sticking point for me, is that as much as I like that hardware for the most part, and as good as Android has gotten, I still have certain things that I'm locked into iOS because of the apps that I use. And for me, it's kind of a no-brainer. I can't switch to Android because there are things that are so critical in my workflow that I don't want to change. And so I don't know, it's just this big conversation of where do devices stop and start, and where does work and personal life stop and start, and so I don't know. It was actually kind of hard for me to find, however many I said, 5 or 6 things that were sort of purely personal use, like the Reddit app for you, Myke, that you and Federico use it differently, and I'm somewhere in between. I do a little bit of work on there with 512 and the Apple and vintage Apple communities, but then I also just peruse Reddit because it's fun, and so it's all kind of messy in there right now for me.
Yeah, it's a, I wouldn't say it's a problem for me, but it's sort of something I'm coming to terms with. Like, if I listen to some music, and I listen for myself, but then the people who follow me, and I'm trying not to sound like a pretentious snob here, but if people who follow me ask me to write about some of the music that I listen to, and I've done that in our newsletter, am I listening to music for work? Or is it just, a byproduct of the fact that at this point, some folks follow me and us with the MacStories team, not necessarily because of Apple News or apps, but just because they feel like following a friend, if it makes any sense. And so is that work for me? Is it watching a movie and then talking about it just casually in a newsletter or in a podcast? Is he playing video games my part of work? Is it my job? I don't know. It's odd, but I feel super lucky that I'm in this position. Like, I try not to see it as a problem. I try to see it as a huge privilege, and the fact that that there's people who listen to what we say, even if it's not necessarily and strictly about Apple News or technology, that's super amazing to me. So it's odd to have this kind of balance, and it can get tricky sometimes when you're like trying to hanging out with friends in real life, and then there's people on the internet who message you, but there's worse stuff in life to worry about than work stuff bleeding into real life, and real life sort of becoming strange. So at the end of the day, whatever is my slogan. So yeah, I'm trying to go with the flow here, guys. Try not to worry about it too much. I don't know if it makes any sense.
Well, that took a turn.
Yeah, but I'm in a good mood. This is awesome to me. This is amazing. So I want to leave you on an uplifting note, to tell you that I'm very happy about our current situation.
Good.
I'm happy about my life, Myke.
That's good to know. I think we all are. Yes. We're very lucky. And we are in this position because of all the fantastic people out there that listen to us and support us, and we want to thank you all for doing that, even if we are a bunch of weirdos who talk on a podcast. We appreciate it very greatly.
Yes.
If you'd like to find our show notes for this week, head on over to relay.fm/connected/89. I've put links into all of the things that we've spoken about this week. There's a lot of show notes this week. They should be in your app of choice, but they're not always. So go and head over there, and you can find all of our links if you haven't got them. Thanks again to Squarespace and Braintree for helping support this week's episode. Thank you to them. And of course, if you want to find us online, there's a few places you can do that. We're all on Twitter. Federico's at Viticci, Viticci. Stephen is at ISMH, and I am Myke, IMYKE. You can also head over to MacStories.net and 512pixels.net for more of the work of my fantastic co-hosts. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next time. Until then, say goodbye, guys.
Arrivederci.
Adios.